Hi, boys and girls. For today's topic, you're going to write a story about a funny polar bear. So I think this will be an exciting topic. It'll be a fun one to write about. Of course, it can be a make-believe story this time. So first, I always like to think about where I'd like my story to take place. When I think of polar bears, I think of the North Pole. I think of cold, snowy places, but I also think of the zoo. So I think I'm going to have my story take place at the zoo. So let me get started here. I'm going to say one snowy day at the zoo. And I don't need to uppercase zoo because it's not a special name of a zoo, comma. And I'm going to name my polar bear Pinecone. Pinecone, that's a compound word there. And I uppercase his name. Pinecone the polar bear. Polar bear is just a lowercase word. Was feeling bored. Kind of start right out with the problem in the story. Period. One snowy day at the zoo, Pinecone the polar bear was feeling bored. And I'm going to say he wanted some excitement in his life. So he's going to have to come up with a plan, something that's going to make him not bored. That will solve the problem. But also it's going to have to eventually be funny because it's a story about a funny polar bear. Ooh, I think I have an idea. Maybe he could be a dancing polar bear. That'd be funny to watch, wouldn't it? A big polar bear trying to dance. So I'm going to say he came up with a plan. He came up with a plan, period. He would learn to dance. And that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to put an exclamation mark at the end of that. Good writers kind of stop, read over what they've written. That makes sure that everything sounds okay so far, and it also helps them to figure out what they want to say next. One snowy day at the zoo, Pinecone the polar bear was feeling bored. He wanted some excitement in his life. He came up with a plan. He would learn to dance. Okay, now we have to have a way for him to learn to dance. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say when the zookeeper, I need more of a space there. Didn't quite have a finger space. Let me move that over a little bit. Zookeeper is another compound word, two words put together. When the zookeeper who brought him his supper wasn't paying attention, when the zookeeper who brought him his supper wasn't paying attention, comma, guess what Pinecone did? Pinecone stole her phone. What do you think Pinecone's going to do with the phone? Yeah, he'll probably listen to some music, won't he? So let's see. I'm going to have that happen at nighttime. So I'm going to say that night, comma, and I need to move over to this side, don't I? That night, comma, pine cone. Make sure you can see it. You can. Looked up YouTube. And I uppercase YouTube. They kind of write it as one word like that, but they uppercase the Y and the T when they write YouTube. Looked up YouTube dance videos. Period. And what kind of music do you think he liked the best? Do you think he liked ballet or country or rock and roll? I'm going to have him dance to rock and roll. Pinecone looked up dance videos, and I'm going to say he liked dancing to rock and roll music the best. Period. Okay, so it's got to get funny at some point. I want people to see this polar bear dancing to music because I think that would be really funny. So let's say maybe after lots of practice, comma, he decided to perform, which means others are going to watch him, right? So now he's going to perform for other people. So I'm going to say on a crowded morning at the zoo, comma, he played his favorite song and began to dance. Okay, I haven't read over what I've written in a while, have I? Let's do it real quick here. One snowy day at the zoo, Pinecone the polar bear was feeling bored. He wanted some excitement in his life. He came up with a plan. He would learn to dance. When the zookeeper who brought him his supper wasn't paying attention, Pinecone stole her phone. That night, Pinecone looked up YouTube dance videos. That looks like a comma. Let me make that look more like a period. He liked dancing to rock and roll music the best. After lots of practice, he decided to perform. On a crowded morning at the zoo, he played his favorite song and began to dance. Well, what do you think the crowd did? Do you think that they liked it? I bet they did. I'm going to say the crowd was amazed, because that'd be pretty exciting, wouldn't it? Seeing a polar bear dance. But I've got to get the funny part in because he's a funny polar bear. But so I'm going to say, but they couldn't help but laugh at what? At the sight of a polar bear dancing. At the sight of a polar bear dancing. Okay, I just kind of need to end it now. Let's say he became famous, right? You'd go see that. I certainly would. So I'm going to say his name again. I'm going to say Pinecone became famous M here, famous as a funny dancing polar bear. Period. Okay. Let's read it one more time. This time, clap the ending marks with me, please. One snowy day at the zoo, Pinecone the polar bear was feeling bored. He wanted some excitement in his life. He came up with a plan. He would learn to dance. When the zookeeper who brought him his supper wasn't paying attention, Pinecone stole her phone. That night, Pinecone looked up YouTube dance videos. He liked dancing to rock and roll music the best. After lots of practice, he decided to perform. On a crowded morning at the zoo, he played his favorite song and began to dance. The crowd was amazed, but they couldn't help but laugh at the sight of a polar bear dancing. Pinecone became famous as a funny, dancing polar bear. Thank you for sticking with me and listening to that writing today. Now you'll get a chance to write a story about a funny polar bear. You can decide what the setting of your story is, where the story takes place. You also can think about what funny thing your polar bear does. Is there any kind of problem in the story and how that problem's solved, and make sure that you end your story as well. Thank you.